We've been taught something our entire lives, that confidence is loud, that success is visible, that power speaks. The person who talks the most must know the most. The person who dominates the room must be the leader. But reality doesn't work like that, because in real life, the loudest person is often reacting, while the quiet one is thinking. And that difference changes everything. This isn't about introversion versus extroversion. It's about how people process the world. Because quiet people aren't silent by accident. They're silent by design. In this video, you're going to discover why quiet people often outperform louder personalities, how they think differently under pressure, and the hidden psychological advantages that most people completely miss. But more importantly, you'll understand why being quiet might be one of the most powerful traits you can have. Reason 1. Quiet people think deeper, not faster. Most people think quickly. They respond instantly. They react in real time. But quick thinking is usually surface thinking. Quiet people operate differently. They pause, they process, they build thoughts instead of reacting to them. Imagine a meeting. Someone asks a question. Within seconds, people start talking. Ideas are thrown out. Opinions collide. Noise fills the room. And in the corner, there's someone silent, watching, listening, thinking. At first, it looks like they don't have an answer. But then, when they finally speak, everything shifts. Because their answer isn't immediate, it's refined. And this is where it gets interesting. The brain has two systems, fast thinking and slow thinking. Fast thinking is automatic, emotional, reactive. Slow thinking is deliberate, analytical, accurate. Quiet people rely more on slow thinking, which means they make fewer mistakes. They see deeper patterns, and when they finally act, they're usually right. Reason 2. They observe what others miss. Most people are too busy being seen to actually see. They talk, they perform, they try to prove something, and in doing that, they miss everything happening around them. Quiet people don't have that problem, because when you're not talking, you're observing. Micro-expressions, tone changes, body language, the slight hesitation before someone answers, the forced confidence in someone's voice, the discomfort behind a smile. Quiet people notice all of it. And this is where everything changes, because information is power. While others are trying to be heard, quiet people are collecting data. They understand people faster. They read situations better. And when it's time to make a move, they're not guessing. They know. Reason 3. They control their emotions. Loud reactions are easy. Anyone can get angry. Anyone can interrupt. Anyone can lose control. But control is rare. Quiet people don't react immediately. Not because they don't feel, but because they process before expressing. Think about conflict. Two people arguing, voices rising, emotions escalating, and one person stays calm. They don't rush to respond. They don't match the intensity. They wait. And that silence creates pressure, because the person who controls their emotions controls the situation. Most people are driven by emotional impulses. Quiet people create space between emotion and action, and in that space, they gain power. Reason 4. They listen in a world that only talks. Listening is one of the rarest skills today. Not hearing, listening. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. They're just waiting for their turn to speak. Quiet people do something different. They absorb. They let people talk. They let them reveal themselves. And here's what most people miss. When someone talks long enough, they tell you exactly who they are, their insecurities, their priorities, their patterns. Quiet people don't need to ask many questions. They just need to listen. And once they understand someone, they can communicate with precision. Not more words, but the right words. Reason 5. They speak less, but say more. When someone talks all the time, their words slowly lose meaning. Not because they're wrong, but because they're constant. The brain starts filtering them out. Familiar noise becomes background noise. But when someone rarely speaks, something different happens. People notice. They lean in. Because silence creates a gap, and the human mind is wired to fill gaps with attention. Quiet people understand this, often without realizing it. They don't rush to respond. They don't interrupt just to be included. They wait. They listen longer than others. And most importantly, they think before they speak. So when they finally do say something, it feels deliberate, measured, important. Imagine a discussion where everyone is talking over each other. Energy is high, opinions are scattered. Then suddenly, one quiet voice enters the conversation. Not louder, just clearer. And the entire dynamic shifts. Because clarity cuts through noise. But here's where it gets deeper. Quiet people aren't just speaking less, they're editing in real time. They remove what's unnecessary. They refine what actually matters. So their message isn't diluted, it's concentrated. And that's why, when they speak, people don't just hear them, they remember them. Reason 6. They are socially aware, not socially loud. There's a difference between being social and being socially aware. Most people confuse the two. They assume the loudest person in the room is the most confident, the most in control. But volume isn't awareness, it's visibility, and those are not the same thing. Because while many people are busy being noticed, quiet people are busy noticing. They pay attention to what isn't being said, the pause before someone answers, the shift in posture, the subtle change in tone. They read the room like a pattern, not just a moment. And this is where it gets interesting. Social awareness isn't about speaking more, it's about understanding more. Quiet people can sense when a conversation is turning, when someone feels uncomfortable, when tension is rising beneath the surface, and instead of forcing their presence, they adjust to it. Sometimes they speak, and it lands perfectly. Sometimes they stay silent, and it says even more. Because they're not trying to control the room, they're aligning with it. And that gives them something most people never develop: timing. They know the exact moment to step in, and the exact moment to step back. And in social dynamics, timing isn't just important, it's everything. Reason 7. They play the long game. Most people are chasing something immediate, a quick win, a visible result, a moment of recognition. They want proof now. And that urgency shapes their decisions. They speak faster, act faster, choose what feels good in the moment. But quiet people operate on a different timeline. They're not focused on being seen today. They're focused on becoming something over time. They think in years, not moments. They watch patterns unfold. They notice what works and what doesn't over the long run. And because of that, they don't rush decisions. They delay reactions. They wait for clarity. They choose direction over speed. And this is where everything changes. Because patience isn't passive. It's strategic restraint. While others are constantly starting and stopping, quiet people stay consistent. They build quietly, improve steadily, adjust without announcing it. And over time, those small, controlled actions begin to stack, almost invisibly, until one day the difference becomes obvious. But by then, it's not a sudden leap. It's the result of hundreds of quiet decisions, made without pressure, without noise, without distraction. And that's the part most people miss. Success doesn't always explode into existence. Sometimes it accumulates in silence. And by the time the world notices, it's already too late to catch up. So what's really happening here? Why do quiet people often outperform others? It comes down to three core psychological systems: attention, processing, control. Quiet people direct their attention inward and outward more effectively. They process information more deeply, and they control their responses instead of reacting impulsively. Most people live in reaction mode. Quiet people live in decision mode. And that difference is everything. The final truth. Here's the truth most people never realize. Quiet people don't win because they're silent. They win because of how they think. Silence is just the surface. Underneath it, there's awareness, there's discipline, there's strategy. They're not trying to prove anything. They're trying to understand everything. And in a world full of noise, the person who understands the most eventually rises. Not loudly, but inevitably. So next time you see someone quiet, don't assume they lack confidence. Don't assume they don't know, because the person saying the least might be the one seeing the most. And maybe that person is you. If this made you think differently, take a second, like the video, subscribe, and comment one thing: quiet power. Because once you understand this, you don't need to be louder. You just need to be sharper. And that's where everything begins.